You're ready for a comeback. And with Purdue Global, you can do more than take classes. You can take charge of your story, of your career, of your life. Earn a degree you can be proud of and get an education employers respect. It's time, your time, not just to go back to school, but to come back and move forward with Purdue Global, Purdue's online university for working adults. Start your comeback at purdueglobal.edu.
At Ford, we pride ourselves on building strong, capable vehicles. But we're only as strong as the people who drive them. People like you, who don't just see an F-150, but see what they can build with it. Because built Ford proud, it's a pact between us, our drivers, and what we can do together. Built Ford proud.
Some models, trims, and features may not be available or may be subject to change.
Shopping for humans is hard this holiday season. Shopping for your dog is easy thanks to Bark. Every month, we deliver toys and treats just for your dog. Whether it's fun plush or tough toys for heavy chewers, we spoil all the dogs. Subscribe now and get a free upgrade at barkbox.com/iHeart.
Hi everyone, it's Amanda Rieger Green. Welcome to Soul Sessions. Today I have an exciting episode. It's actually a two-part series on wellness, personal wellness, professional wellness, and overall health and well-being. My client and dear friend, Sara Pedersen, is a guest today. She has been in the events industry for 15 years and currently is in business operations for Amazon Web Services. She also has served on Amazon's mental health and well-being affinity group for the last couple of years and contributed to the Emotional Intelligence and Success Committee. Her contributions to workplace wellness and well-being are pretty significant, and so much of that stems from her personal wellness journey, how it has evolved and how it has impacted her life, her happiness, her definition of success, and now she's a massive advocate for that within her workplace and influencing and affecting optimal change. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
You and I have a personal connection, and I know so much of your story, but I'm excited to have a dialogue today because I know it will resonate with many people out there. You and I, we're going to talk a little bit about your background, your wellness journey, what triggered you into action, essentially. But one of the things I know you and I both share in our background is we're type A overachievers, and we're brought up with a similar mindset of if everything looks good on paper, if you're achieving, if you have these credentials, if you've got a good job, if everything on paper looks good, then you must be doing well. And that was something that's backwards, right? And it was something that was very backwards for me for a big part of my journey. And I know that that resonates with you. Will you speak a little bit to your background and also what prompted you into a wellness discovery, a lifestyle change in taking ownership of your health and well-being?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for that introduction. As far as me, I am originally from Cleveland, Ohio, and then I moved to Austin in 2006. Just like you said, I've been working in the events industry for 15 years. It's a very fast-paced industry. As far as me personally, I am very, like you said, type A, overachiever. I was a competitive gymnast growing up, so I always grew up with that discipline, perfect, have to be perfect, have to look perfect. And I really, throughout my life, used that as my definition of success was really if I was achieving, and I kind of assigned my value to what I was able to achieve and what I was able to accomplish. So when it came to going to school, I wasn't always the smartest person in the room, but I always got straight A's because it was like, I have to be perfect. I love the validation that I got from my parents and my family, my friends when I did well in school. And then, I was able throughout my life, throughout my career to continue to achieve. And throughout, school, I always did well. Throughout my career, I was able to get promotions every year or two based on just working hard and being gritty and putting that all in there. I was working in the events industry. I had a very fast-paced life in Austin, was a very social person, was just kind of like go, 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 just kind of like on the hamster wheel is really how I would describe it. And what changed for me was COVID. Everything kind of slowed down. I think a lot of us obviously experienced that, but working in the events industry specifically, there was a lot of uncertainty. My job was in question. I experienced a pay cut at that time. So I was, for the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't able to achieve, and it really broke me down. I was trying to be perfect and do well in my career. And no matter what I did, it was hard to navigate COVID. It was hard for me not to have the connections of my friends and family. I didn't really realize how much stock I put into that. And so then once COVID hit and I was struggling in my career for the first time, and I really wasn't taking care of myself at that time, I really had run myself into the ground. I started having really dark, intrusive thoughts. I didn't have suicidal thoughts, but I had sort of just, what is my purpose? What am I doing here? Is this all that there is? Like I was just kind of, everything was up for review to me. And I felt very lost and was waking up with anxiety every day. And I couldn't understand why, because on paper, I had everything that you would think that you would want to have. I have a very loving, supportive family. I had a great partner. And although there was uncertainty with my job, I still had a job, and I had my health, I had all these things. Why am I not happy? And then when I started to have dark, intrusive thoughts, it was like, okay, this is, I want to give myself permission to go through a hard time, but like, why am I so unhappy when I have so much? So that really ignited a strong passion in me. And I started just reading. I started reading about neuroscience, mental health, well-being, mindset. Neuroscience was a big thing. Like I kind of thought of it as like reading the owner's manual when it comes to your brain, like what is it that makes people happy? And what does science say about this? What does research say about it? And I learned so much, and I was able to pull myself out of my dark place using the practical tools that I had learned. And it's kind of like, why are we not teaching this in school? Why, it was great for me to learn all of these things, but I just was like, I really think a lot of people are in the dark around what actually makes somebody happy and like how to do that and how to find that within yourself. So that was really it. I was really pulling myself out of that dark time. And then from there, it really ignited this strong passion to share with others, because all of these tools helped me so much. And I'm just a regular girl, I'm not anything special when it comes to that. So it's like these practical tools could really help others. And so that's really became my mission. And I've spent a lot of time learning more about it and teaching others.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think there are multiple points that people can resonate with, and I certainly resonate with. More than anything, it's the call to action. I have found, and I see this in other people, but oftentimes when we are in our most discomfort, our most disease and pain, we can either stay in it and go lower, or we can find help. And sometimes that help starts from within. And it very much sounds like you did this deep inner searching and recognizing that on paper, the credentials, the achievements were all there. I still have my job. It could be worse. A lot of us sometimes, or we've been taught this, is go to gratitude, be grateful for what you have. And I am a believer in gratitude because it is a gateway to shifting our perspectives and our mentality. But I'm also a believer in not bypassing what's going on mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and you being able to recognize, wait a minute, I'm waking up with anxiety. What does this mean? What do I mean? Why am I here? What is my purpose? What is my aim, my direction? I mean, you started getting into more esoteric questions, but recognizing that your physical health, your anxiety, your mental health, your emotions were involved. So you were starting to recognize the full spectrum of wellness. A lot of times we just go to physical health, and because we have started to take so many of the stigmas off of mental health, we look at mental health, but emotional health and energetic or spiritual health is a component of that, and ways in which we can tie all of those together. And I want to go back to one other thing that you said that resonates very purely and truly for me. I, like you, from a young age, got a lot of validation from achievements. And I was the child that didn't want to get in trouble. I would rather be praised. So sometimes we rebel or we seek achievements and recognition. And I thought, well, if I do well, if I show up, if I'm good, if I get recognition, then I'm going to make people proud. And I had no concept of being proud of myself. It was all this people-pleasing element. If I do well, then people are going to love me. Or if I do really, really well, then I'm going to be happy. There was no concept of being in the present and who I really was. And it wasn't that I was inauthentic or fake, because that is not at all who I was. I wanted to genuinely show up, help people feel better, be better, do well. But then it came to this point where all of this overachieving, all of this external success and validation left me very empty on the inside. And that's what I hear in you. And I mean, it truly resonates with me, because my waking up moment came from this place of, who am I? What do I mean? What is all this for? I have all of these achievements and I am doing well on paper externally, but I am broken inside and I really don't know who I am, what I love. And you've heard me say this before. And I say this to a lot of clients because it was a light bulb moment for me. I always say, do you remember when you were little and you don't like spinach or blue cheese? I give spinach and blue cheese as the examples. And then all of a sudden you're 26 and you're like, I'll have the spinach, or put the spinach in my smoothie, or absolutely give me a double helping of the blue cheese. When do our taste buds evolve? You know, they evolve subtly. And at some point, there is this big knock on the door that says, are you going to pay attention to what's internally evolved in you and start to take note? And I think anxiety, depression, physical disease, our bodies are so biologically intelligent that when they tend to be run down, depleted, exhausted, creating things like depression or anxiety, those are big calls to action, to knowing that something internally is out of alignment, out of sync, and it takes investigation. And it sounds like that's what, instead of you stepping back and just falling completely into depression, and not that you didn't feel that because it was real. I know it was real for you, and you didn't just snap out of it magically, and we'll talk about that, but you decided to get curious and get into action. And I think that, out of anything, when it comes to taking charge of our personal health and wellness and well-being, is how can we get curious? How can we start to investigate ourselves? And I think that's a big gift that you bring to the table specifically. So like getting curious and getting interested in saying, okay, how can I heal? How can I learn about these things? And what are the practical tools? Will you talk a little bit about some of the practical tools and lessons, specifically the lessons? Because I know, like, people pleasing, unlearning that, or being able to forgive or let go of the past, those things are, really do apply to your story. What were some of the moments of awareness or aha moments within yourself that you saw as limiting or holding you back from fulfilling your meaning or better aligning with it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said. I think the biggest thing for me was unlearning behavior and unlearning being a people pleaser and unlearning being a perfectionist. But that first piece, even before that, and you mentioned it, is really that awareness piece. So it's about taking that time to really understand who you are, sitting in the uncomfortable emotions and being willing to unpack those emotions and realize, where is this actually coming from? Why am I unhappy? For me, when it came to, success in my career, well, once I achieved the success that I wanted and I hadn't I didn't feel the happiness that I thought that I would. It's kind of like, okay, well then where is your happiness coming from? And that's going to be different for everybody. So it's really taking that time is so important to self-reflect. And COVID made me do it. Like I don't know if I ever.
COVID made me do it. That's like a hashtag. COVID made me do it.
Yeah, it's just like, no, don't make me deal with this. I don't want to feel these feelings and like all that. But there was a lot of things from my past, like unhealed childhood trauma and like getting back to the perfectionist thing. So I was a competitive gymnast, which I mentioned. So
which is major, by the way, I know that about you, but a competitive gymnast, that's intense. And there is nothing short of a perfect 10.
Yeah.
Perfect 10. That encapsulates the energy and that environment and the high overachieving, constant expectation. And then of course the body, the physical body. And there's nothing, less than perfection that is acceptable. And I don't mean to blanket that or stereotype being a gymnast, but it's hard on your body. It's competitive. That is a very intense place to learn behaviors during your formative years.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, like I developed an eating disorder at age 11 because my coach told me to. And she thought if I would be skinnier and it used those words, if you could get skinnier, your scores would go up. So I did that. And then she was right. She was right. I did do better once I got skinnier. And I got more validation from people around me. And so it's sort of like, man, it was bad behavior and then reinforced. So that takes a lot of.
And doing well, like reinforced and do it like, oh, she was right. Yeah. I got skinnier and I started to win more or get more attention. And a lot of us have this story. I danced my entire life and the same kind of body issues and image came up and insecurities that are still things that I know are struggles for me today. And it's funny because you and I both talk about this and it's just something that's very vulnerable for me to share. You and I've said this before. When I am struggling or emotionally not in an intelligent space, but in these feelings that take over me, one of my coping mechanisms is to eat, and one of yours is to not eat.
Yeah.
Like you and I, and we've talked about that, and I'm smiling because it's like, what have we learned? And I go to, oh, I'm bored, or I don't want to deal with that, or I can't think about it. And instead of intelligently processing and sitting in those uncomfortable emotions, which I want to talk about in a second, because you shared something with me a while back about that. It's like, well, let me go to the refrigerator or let me go into the pantry. And I'm very cognizant of that today and know how to respond to it better. But you're the opposite. You're like, when I'm sick, when I'm tired, when I'm anxious, then I just don't eat for a couple of days, So it's like the pendulum can swing in those behaviors and how they're translated in our bodies, our biology, our neurology. We're all wired differently. But when we are armed with that self-awareness, we can respond to it and heal it or change it, which is what you were talking about with neural patterning and cognition and rewiring and retraining the brain. It all comes down to awareness of behaviors, learned behaviors and whatnot. But what I wanted to go back to is talking about sitting in your uncomfortable emotions. You shared with me one time, I just remember being on the bathroom floor and just laid out on the bathroom floor. And so many of us can relate to that. I have been on the bathroom floor in a puddle of tears or fear or curled up in a ball multiple times in life. And I'm in a place today, and I know this resonates with you, where if I need to be in an anxious state, if I need to process anxiety or recognize that I am really low down, feeling sorry for myself, whatever it is, just acknowledging it and finding a way to hold space for that, even if, on paper, that may sound really small.
Yeah, it's really important to be willing to feel uncomfortable. And for me, when I was processing all this information, what helped me is I chose to go to therapy, which really helped. Therapy helped me the most in terms of coming to peace with my past. And therapy is great in the sense that you do sit in those uncomfortable feelings and you do talk about it. And you can talk to somebody who is trained in this, who can teach you about thought patterns and just kind of help you unpack, like, how did you get to be this super perfectionist? Okay, well, you were a gymnast and then they told you this, and then that bad behavior was reinforced. You can, whatever your journey is, maybe it's not perfectionist for everyone who's listening, but whatever it is that's kind of holding you back, you can unpack that, sit with it, understand where it came from, come at peace with it, take the lessons from it, and then let it go. Like, that was the biggest thing for me, was coming to peace with my past and really just taking the lessons from it and then letting go of the things that didn't serve me. So if you go back to like gymnastics, for example, yes, bad body image, that was not a good situation, but it also taught me amazing discipline. And I am where I am, and I'm a very high achiever and always have like 2 or 3 revenue streams coming at one time. Like, I'm just a go-doer worker. And I think that comes from that. And I'm grateful for it. So it's like learning to be, even in bad situations, like, that is a very toxic environment in so many ways. But learning to pick out what you learned from it, how it made you better, how it made you stronger. And then, like I said, letting it go is a huge thing. It's just not, and you taught me this little catchphrase you said to me one time in our sessions, and I still tell it to myself all the time, is like, this thought or this thing is no longer serving me. This is no longer a good use of my time or intelligence. What can I replace this thought with? And this, thinking of a better feeling thought, or, going back to gratitude. I know gratitude to me can feel a little like barfy now, like it's so overdone, like, oh, be grateful. But what I have learned too is, like, when I did all of my research, I read all of these books, and when it comes to gratitude, I learned the why behind why gratitude works, and we can get into that. But that really helped me, because I mean, everyone has heard gratitude before, so why aren't we doing it all the time? Well, once I learned the why and how it works and how your brain processes information and how you can reprogram it for happiness and to see the good in situations, that really triggered me to make gratitude a habit of mine. And we can talk more about that too. But that was huge for me, just understanding the why.
I love what you shared about reviewing our past behaviors, our past experiences, and extrapolating maybe the harm or the behaviors that it instilled that are limiting us or holding us back or keeping us in disease, and also extrapolating what it taught you that is healthy. Wow, discipline, focus, striving to grow, to be better, to evolve. So being able to look at both sides of things, which is, to me, that's perspective. I think perspective is such a gift when we're able to say, oh, yes, this was a toxic situation, and this is how it's limited me or created dysfunction or disease in certain aspects of my psyche, my behaviors and beliefs. But here's how it harnessed me. Here's what I've taken away from that I wouldn't have those skill sets otherwise. And that is so important to me. And that also is what that I see gives us this allowance or this softer space or grace to be able to heal the past, to let go of the past, and not forget the past so much as not living in the present in your past behaviors and whatever is hardwired into your personality traits and your actions. So I think that is so helpful. And one of the things that you and I have talked about that we both share is you and I are intense people.
Yeah.
I think a lot of perfectionists are, and we go hard, we're driven, we do. So fun and joy and silliness and play is not usually in our priority list. But I know in this journey for you, and it's very parallel to mine, today, play, fun, silliness, happy, joy, those are non-negotiables up in my top 3. They were not even anything I would put in my to-do list or come naturally to me. And now I know when I play and have fun or spend time with people who bring out my silly side, my joyful side, I become more productive, clear. Is that your experience? And what did you learn through this awakening and this embracing of a new lifestyle about play and lightheartedness and joy and how it affects your health and well-being?
We all agree that reducing carbon emissions is a good thing. And once again, Toyota is leading the way. We hear a lot about fully electric vehicles, and Toyota has them, with more on the way. But we also know a BEV is not for everyone, whether it's because of the cost, range, or concern about finding a charging station when you need it. Plus, the raw materials used to manufacture batteries are limited. Enter Beyond Zero, Toyota's vision for a carbon-neutral future in vehicles and manufacturing plants, too. In the years ahead, the materials used to make just one long-range battery for an EV could be used to make batteries for 6 plug-in hybrids or 90 gas-electric hybrids. That's why Toyota's position today is electrified, diversified, empowering you to choose how to reduce your own carbon footprint with the vehicle that's right for you, a hybrid, plug-in hybrid, or battery EV. So shop, learn more, and get details at toyota.com/Beyond Zero. Toyota, let's go places.
Imagine all your audio entertainment available in just one place. That's what the Audible app is all about. With Audible, you can always find the best of what you love or discover something new. Audible has an incredible selection of wellness titles, like The Light Podcast by Michelle Obama, Work It Out by Mel Robbins, and Confidence Gap by Russ Harris. Membership includes access to Audible originals, podcasts, and tons of audiobooks that you can download or stream as much as you want. And as an Audible member, you can choose one title per month from an ever-growing catalog of titles to keep. The Audible app makes it easy to listen anytime, anywhere, whether you're traveling, working out, doing chores, wherever your day takes you. New members can try Audible now free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/motivate or text motivate to 500-500. That's audible.com/motivate or text motivate to 500-500 to try Audible free for 30 days.
The holidays are the busiest time of the year for your business, so don't get stuck worrying about shipping orders. Let ShipStation do the heavy lifting. Whether you're shipping from your house or multiple warehouses, ShipStation has the tools and features to boost your holiday profitability. ShipStation lets you easily automate shipping tasks like printing labels and comparing rates while managing orders from everywhere you sell online in one simple dashboard. And ShipStation can help no matter how big your business grows, with enterprise solutions that reduce warehouse costs and improve efficiency. And when it comes to those inevitable holiday returns, ShipStation automatically gathers customer feedback and recommends exchange items. So even if your customers buy the wrong size or color, they'll still have a great experience. Optimize every shipment this holiday season automatically. Go to ShipStation.com and use code LEADERS today to sign up for your free 60-day trial. That's ShipStation.com, code LEADERS.
What did you learn through this awakening and this embracing of a new lifestyle about play and lightheartedness and joy and how it affects your health and well-being?
It's paramount. I have learned that rest and fun really are weapons. I heard a friend of mine, my connection of mine, Bethany Cranfield, had posed that to me. Rest is a weapon. And I feel the same way about fun, and especially as someone who's used to being a high achiever and very ambitious, it can feel counterintuitive to take breaks or this is going to hold me back. But what I have learned is that taking breaks actually helps you, not just from a scientific standpoint when it comes to your brain and resetting. Like, for instance, like the way that our brains work, what I have learned is that we have natural energy cycles of about 90 minutes. So you can do 90 minutes of focused work, you're good to go. And then after 90 minutes, your brain starts to pull away. You can make mistakes. And that's why, like, if you've been working all day, and I have taught myself to do this at work, is getting up and taking breaks, getting away from your computer, taking 10, 15 minutes away from something actually helps you recharge and come back better. And I think too, especially I look at it through the women's lens, but we're taught to take care of everybody, serve everybody. You have your work, you have your family, you have your household. It's just so much. And so a lot of times I was putting myself last on my list. And I know that I think a lot of people do that as well, especially women. And it's so important to be taking care of yourself first, and just allowing yourself to have fun, and it's not so serious. That's something that I'm still teaching myself. I don't relax very well. So like actually taking that time and scheduling it, something that has helped me. And that makes it sound like the most lame fun ever, like schedule your fun. But I will schedule, 20 minutes in the middle of my day to go tell my dog that he's the cutest thing I've seen in my life for 10 minutes, because that just makes me feel good.
Absolutely. And Sara, to me, these are practical ways that we can begin to create wellness and create the traction in that wellness so it takes root. And it's traction and repetition. Yeah. And because we are busy, scheduling things helps. And I say this with people all the time. Hey, and I had a client do this the other day, and she actually sent me a message just saying, I did it. I did exactly what you said. I said, I need you to put a reminder in your phone at these times. And we were actually using numerology. So it's like, do it at 3:33 a.m. and 3:33 in the afternoon. And she did. And I was like, you won't get the 3:33 a.m. until you wake up in the morning. But it means first thing in the morning, you're going to see this notification. And these are the intentions. And that way, 2 times a day, you are calling in, you're asking yourself to pause, to reflect, whatever the prescription was that was coming through uniquely for her. And she did it. Yeah. And that in and of itself, the effort of, okay, I'm going to schedule this. But one of the things that you're sharing, I think, is so beneficial, especially post-COVID, because we have moved into a more virtual world with work where we're either outside of an office full-time and we work remotely, or we have flex time. It's becoming more necessary, demanded almost, and needed. But when we work at home, we can feel isolated. It can actually trigger greater loneliness, separation. And then I know for me, and I see it in a lot of people, that actually depletes my creativity. And what you're sharing is for anybody, even if you are at a desk, at a cubicle, in an office space, really saying, okay, after about 90 minutes, because I can sit at a computer for 4 hours like nobody's business. And then, and I mean, I can just focus, and then I become more intense, more rigid, more restrictive, actually, because my body actually is in that restrictive posturing. And that's what I say, our body is so important, the way we hold ourselves. But when you're hunched over and you're doing that for hours at a time, it actually limits your ability to receive and be open and flexible and fluid. And it's actually shutting down parts of creativity in the brain. But whether you're in a workspace or you are at home, setting times in your calendar to pause and go do something else for 10 minutes, for 20 minutes. And for me, I have actually scheduled, you know this, and I've talked about this on Soul Sessions before, but I scheduled my Pilates. After my mother died and dealing with grief and rebalancing life, wellness routines, reprioritizing that, I will either go early in the morning, middle of the day, in the evening, and it's a drive to go there. I mean, it has to be scheduled, but the drive time, the Pilates itself, both of those things have been massive add-ons to my creativity, my clarity, my intuition. It has also helped me intuitively to recalibrate my body, my mind, my spirit intuitively. I find a lot of revitalization. I have so many downloads when I'm driving and in scheduling that Pilates time. So I take little breaks. I've scheduled that for years, but I've had to, especially coming out of some trauma, some grief, some tragedy, which I know a lot of other people can relate to. Sometimes if we double down a little bit on quote unquote our breaks or our time away from the computer, and I know we don't all have the luxury to just stop at noon and take a Pilates class, but I know for me, if I don't have the luxury at noon, I get up a little earlier in the morning. And again, depending on where you're coming from, and if you're a mom and your responsibilities, you may not be able to schedule that much time, but where can you schedule 10 or 20 minutes? Because I do know that whatever you focus on grows. And if you will prioritize 10 or 20 minutes 2 or 3 times a day, all of a sudden opportunities will start to come that create more flexibility, more space. Does that resonate with you? Do you hear? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's so important. What has helped me a lot too is just having a morning routine that incorporates meditation and exercise. I don't go right into work. And I wake up a little bit earlier so that I can do that. But it's just not sustainable to be work all the time or like focused like that. You have to give yourself time. And especially one of the things that I really dove into learning about when I was going through my struggles is the subconscious mind and how to tap into your subconscious mind to help you solve problems and navigate your life. And a big part of that is taking time alone. Like, I think a lot of us know what to do. And like for me, when I was going through my hard time, I felt very much at a crossroads. It was like, I don't know what to do. I'm not sure what I want with my career, and like some like old friendships that weren't resonating with me anymore. And like, I just was feeling a little bit lost in terms of how do I want to move forward? What's important to me? Just like everything was kind of up for review, and having that time alone and taking that time to like get outside, getting into nature is huge. If you don't know what to do, take a walk. I remember Oprah said something, and this helps me. I listen to everything that Oprah says.
I am a massive fan. And if you listen, everybody out there, if you have not listened to Super Soul Sunday, and she has it all, basically all of Super Soul Sunday is now on her podcast. And I direct clients and people to Super Soul Sunday all the time. Okay, what did Oprah say? I'm like, I'm all ears.
She said that if you don't know what to do, and if you're feeling really stuck in life, don't do anything. Sit alone in a room. Just give yourself time to sit alone in a room, whether it's 20 minutes a day, half hour a day. Take that time to yourself, because you know what to do. Like, you know what to do. Yeah. Your intuition knows what to do, but do you know what's important to you? Do you have that clarity? And learning how to trust yourself is huge. That was a big lesson for me, and something that I'm still working at. Learning how to do is really fully trusting yourself and listening to your intuition. But setting yourself up for success is like a real practical way to do that. Like you said, is really just scheduling that time, taking that time to yourself. Because we get so many downloads all the time, and we have our phones constantly going off. There's craziness with the government. There's craziness here. There's violence and school shootings. Like, there's just so much coming at us that can really drag you down. And you really have to take responsibility for your own well-being. It is the short version.
That's a huge message. And you and I had this discussion recently, where this is for just a little bit of a teaser into part 2 of our conversation. We're going to talk about wellness and workplace wellness, and when your wellness journey begins to evolve, how it can impact you professionally, on top of the personal implications in your personal life, and what organizational wellness looks like. So we will talk about that. But one stance that Sara has really taken that makes sense to me is we are responsible for our wellness. We have to decide we want to be well. And what does that look like? And the biggest piece of that I start to take away is don't get overwhelmed. You do it one thing at a time. And like you talking about your morning routines are a non-negotiable for me. Wellness became a lifestyle for me over a decade ago. And there are times when my wellness is more well-rounded, full-bodied, and it just happens because it's so natural. And there are times when I am tired, I'm exhausted, just like losing my mom and I had to pull myself up and say, okay, Amanda, let's start by cleaning out the refrigerator, making sure everything in here is healthy so you have food that's nourishing your body. Okay, figure out what your exercise routine looks like and, your morning routine. And I've gotten up a couple of hours early, for years, because I need that quiet time with myself to reflect, to be able to show up abundantly. Those are things I know, but if I'm not practicing them consistently, then it's not going to be effective. And one of the things when you were talking about changing behaviors and thinking about worry or negative self-talk, what are some of the practices, getting quiet with yourself, which I think is one massive takeaway from this conversation. If you don't get quiet with yourself, go do it. And it's uncomfortable as all get out sometimes because we just want to sit and grab our phone or distract by doing the laundry. I mean, get quiet with yourself without doing anything. Just go sit in the closet or sit in the car with the car totally turned off. And I don't mean turn your car on and, run the gas and exhaust and close the garage. I don't mean that. I don't mean that kind of thing by sit in the car alone, but literally go find a quiet space and avoid picking up the phone or turning the radio on or doing the laundry while you're getting quiet with yourself. I mean, just sit. And even if meditation is not a practice that you have been able to incorporate yet, finding ways to sit quietly, even if you have to put a timer on your phone and it's 3 minutes, can you do it? And then maybe 3 minutes and 30 seconds the next day. But what are some of the practices for healing, becoming conscious of negative self-talk or emotions like worry, which is a future emotion, not being in the present, playing different scenarios out, different trajectories out into the future. What are some of the practical ways that you have been able to recognize and heal worry and also self-critical, perfectionistic, berating self-talk? That is something I'm very conscious of, and it's, it can be a massive detriment.
Absolutely. The first step with that is always awareness. Like, you have to be aware of your thoughts. And so I was the type of person previously who would really spiral. If something negative happened, I would let that get me down for hours, days at a time. And that was something that was really holding me back. And what I learned is really paying attention to how you're speaking to yourself. And one of the biggest things that I learned is to not believe everything that you think.
Right.
Which
That's true.
But what I learned, even just from a physiological standpoint, our brains are all wired with what's called a negativity bias, because we were in the woods fighting saber-tooth tigers back in the day. Like, our hardwiring was happening in a real life or death survival state. Well, most of us now are no longer in those life or death situations, but our brains are still wired and functioning in that way. So just understanding that your brain is it's wired to keep you safe more than it's wired to keep you happy. And so when you're feeling these emotions, I was a big future tripper. I'm like a recovering future tripper now.
Yes.
But it's really catching yourself, and it's just noticing, like, what am I feeling? Like, what is the emotion? Can I name it? In my research, I found that the average adult can only name 3 emotions. It's happy, sad, tired. And tired isn't even an emotion. That's a state.
By the way, that is not surprising to me that most humans don't have a massive vocabulary around their emotions. And I usually will say to somebody, hey, could you get yourself a feeling, search a feelings chart where it has 35, 65 emotions on it, irritable, frustrated, elated. So it starts to give you vocabulary, and you become aware of the nuances of emotions, because emotions can be used erratically and unhealthily, or they can be used intelligently, and they are jet fuel to greater happiness, health, well-being, and so on. But if you can begin to recognize the spectrum of emotions, it's quite fascinating. And we need a little bit of help. So I always tell people, hey, grab yourself, one of those emotional charts with all the faces, but the names of the emotions, because it's enlightening, actually.
It really is.
We all agree that reducing carbon emissions is a good thing. And once again, Toyota is leading the way. We hear a lot about fully electric vehicles, and Toyota has them, with more on the way. But we also know a BEV is not for everyone, whether it's because of cost, range, or concerns about finding a charging station when you need it. Plus, the raw materials used to manufacture batteries are limited. Enter Beyond Zero, Toyota's vision for a carbon-neutral future, in vehicles and manufacturing plants too, in the years ahead. The materials used to make just one long-range battery for for an EV could be used to make batteries for 6 plug-in hybrids or 90 gas electric hybrids. That's why Toyota's position today is electrified, diversified, empowering you to choose how to reduce your own carbon footprint with the vehicle that's right for you, a hybrid, plug-in hybrid, or battery EV. So shop, learn more, and get details at toyota.com/beyond0. Toyota, let's go places.
Imagine all your audio entertainment available in just one place. That's what the Audible app is all about. With Audible, you can always find the best of what you love or discover something new. Audible has an incredible selection of wellness titles, like The Light Podcast by Michelle Obama, Work It Out by Mel Robbins, and Confidence Gap by Russ Harris. Membership includes access to Audible originals, podcasts, and tons of audiobooks that you can download or stream as much as you want. And as an Audible member, you can choose one title per month from an ever-growing catalog of titles to keep. The Audible app makes it easy to listen anytime, anywhere, whether you're traveling, working out, doing chores, wherever your day takes you. New members can try Audible now free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/motivate or text motivate to 500-500. That's audible.com/motivate or text motivate to 500-500 to try Audible free for 30 days.
What happens when the right people connect? At MITRE, breakthrough technology advances. People fulfill their passions, diversity fuels innovation, and our way of life thrives. From health to transportation and global security, cyber and AI, to space and back again, there's no higher calling than making the world a safer place. Let's connect at mitre.org/careers. That's MITRE.org/careers.
There's an app called How You Feel, or How We Feel. I think it's what it's called. That's really good, where it will prompt you. If you're not somebody who's really in touch with your emotions or doesn't have that emotional vocabulary, it'll prompt you throughout the day. And there's other ones. If you just look it up, there's a lot of different apps out there. That's another thing. Just use your resources. Like if you're struggling with something, there's a book on it. I promise you. I found luck with therapy, but for the most part, what helped me the most was just figuring out what I was dealing with and then finding a book or a podcast or something to help with that and just teaching yourself. But yeah, getting back to the emotion piece of it is really understanding, what am I feeling and why am I feeling this, and not fighting it. Not, oh, I can't believe I'm spiraling again. Oh, I can't believe I'm so upset about this. This shouldn't be causing me this much disease. Like giving yourself permission to feel. And also, not all negative emotions are bad. You know, these are, again, you said it earlier, when you're feeling types of emotions that are negative, you're really usually out of alignment with who you are in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So it's about understanding that piece of it. So knowing what the emotion is, naming the emotion, figuring out what it's coming, where it's coming from and why. What can you control in the situation? I think that's major. A lot of times we worry about things that we can't control. So figuring out what can I control in this situation and then letting the rest of it go.
I mean, that's a big formulary, but a very clear path that you just defined. So it's the willingness to put this into action. And even if you're listening out there and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do all those things, just start with the awareness. And what Sara was saying is getting honest. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling completely uneasy right now. I don't know the why. I don't know where it's coming from, but I'm feeling uneasy. Just saying, and it's okay that I feel uneasy, because it really actually doesn't take but 12 to 18 seconds to process an emotion. And most of us either bypass them, shove them down, which has adverse effects. So the awareness and then the honesty, the willingness to be honest about what you're experiencing will lead to the investigation.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is repeated 2 or 3 times. Is this something in my present environment, or is this coming from an old pattern, an old experience, and whatever I'm experiencing now is bringing this up for me to review, for me to process? And again, we don't have to be super sleuths, but it is kind of incredible what we can uncover and discover about ourselves very rapidly, and the healing effects can happen I mean, sometimes instantaneously, sometimes over time, and you can look back over 2 or 3 weeks, 2 or 3 months, or over a year and be astounded by the personal growth and self-awareness, which is part of your story, because COVID as this catalyst to wake you up to your personal meaning, your happiness, which has created success rather than success. And you articulated this as we were getting on the call. At first, the belief was success will create happiness. And now your belief is happiness breeds or creates success. And that is a flip in the script of the paradigm of your success, but also it's seeded from this internal happiness. So I think that's such a great roadmap to give people. And I also, before we sign off for today, because our next discussion is about taking these things out into the world, essentially, how it can impact us in workplace wellness, health and well-being within our jobs, our productivity, our creativity, creating trust, cohesion, a multitude of other things that Sara is very involved with at Amazon and has become a passion of hers through her own healing journey. But I also want to talk about trusting yourself and your intuition, because all of the things that you're lining up and these practices help you get clearer and clearer on the inner voice connected to your intelligence, your emotions, your body, but your consciousness, your intuition, and how that plays a role or has played a greater role over the last couple of years in your overall well-being.
Yeah, so when it comes to trusting yourself, this is a big lesson that I had to learn. Something that helped me was, there is a book out there called The Way of Integrity. It's by Martha Beck. I don't know if you've heard of this book.
I have heard this.
Dr. Marcus. Yeah.
I haven't read it though.
Oh, it's so good. But it's all about, for me, because I was unlearning, I'm very people pleaser, and like, what is my voice and what do I want? And the whole premise of the book is learning to live in integrity. And a big thing is not telling lies, like even white lies, like just being honest, like I'm not up for going to XYZ event tonight, but I hope to see you another time. Like living in that integrity and being truthful is really helpful.
That's huge. What you just shared is huge. And I do talk about this with a lot of people and have practiced it for myself, because text messages are a really great place to check ourselves honestly, because a lot of times we'll say, oh my gosh, that sounds so great, or I'm so excited for you. And that actually may not be at all what we are thinking, but being able to pause, and sounds like you can just reword your text messages to be in honesty and integrity.
Yeah.
And it may be, wow, it sounds like you're really happy. That's excellent. Instead of, to really help us get clear on our language, or setting a boundary with a yes or a no.
Yeah.
Thank you for including me, but if I say yes, it's going to be too much on my plate. Words are so powerful, and our boundaries, and that you just hit the nail on the head on a massive, something that has been a game changer for me as far as defining my own truth and even enhancing my intuition. While those may not sound completely aligned, but being able to communicate in integrity.
Yeah, and just learning how to say no and being okay with
right?
disappointing people. I think that's a big thing for me, is I don't like disappointing people, and I always want to be there and be 100% for everybody. But when it comes to at the expense of me, that's where it has to stop. And that's where I learned. But it is about setting boundaries, and it's about living in integrity. And if someone asks you to go do this, and if your body is saying, oh my God, I don't want to go to that baby shower, don't go.
Yes.
Don't go. Like, shift, go to lunch after, like suggest an activity that is more in alignment with what you would want to do. I think that just living more in my truth has allowed me to accept myself as I am, and letting go the need to please people, and letting go of the need to be perfect. And I think just being okay with being my imperfect self has allowed me to stay true to myself much more, because I'm not living for other people. And like, when it came to success and getting back to the beginning of this, why am I not happy? Well, I was chasing what everyone else told me I should be chasing, not what I really wanted. And so I think just knowing yourself and being true to yourself and practically being authentic to you and your relationships is really key, and something that I previously wasn't doing. And so that was big for me.
I think that's huge. And I think it gives everyone out there a lot of practical resources, tools, and food for thought. And what you just shared of, no, I don't want to go to that baby shower. It's such a simple example, but also one of those that for most of us, especially the people pleasers out there, the perfectionists out there that want to be everything to everyone, which is impossible and not sustainable, by the way, and not healthy and not authentic. There's a lot of things that it is not versus what it is. And the beauty in that is being able to say, thank you for inviting me. I'm not going to be able to come, but I do want to celebrate you. And here's how can we do this? And when we do that, then we give ourselves permission to be authentic. And guess what else it alleviates is guilt, because then we say, okay, I don't want to go, or I can't go. And then we just guilt trip ourselves. And we may as well have just said yes, because we are resenting, re-feeling an emotion over and over again. And emotions are like jet fuel, whether they are positive and they are propelling us forward, or they are keeping us in a lower vibrational state, which just completely deflects from our opportunity to be happy and well. So much of this conversation today has given everyone practical insights and tools, but especially around picking up the torch of self-awareness, recognizing what happiness means to you, who you are today, and beginning to investigate your wellness journey, knowing that it doesn't have to be overwhelming. You just start by starting. And I remember, in multiple things in life, when we start something out, it's not what it's going to look like in 2 months, 6 months, 8 months, a year. When we're starting, we're just beginning and being able to implement one or two things. And I think probably one of the most valuable things that Sara said, and she said a lot of valuable things, so I am singling out one, is create quiet time for yourself. Sit by yourself or with yourself in either comfortable or uncomfortable moments for a little while, because the truth is in there, and it gives you this space, this sacred space to be with yourself no matter what you're experiencing or going through, so you can hear the voice in your head, the feelings in your body, the comfort or discomfort that you're experiencing, and experience it all, because that creates this opportunity for greater wellness and clarity around your voice, your happiness. So I think that's huge. And when Sara and I return in the second part of our discussion, as I mentioned, we're going to talk more about taking this into the workplace and workplace wellness, professional health, wellness, fitness, and well-being. But we're also going to talk about different practices and also cognition and communication, but wellness is a lifestyle, and again, how it impacts the workplace. So is there anything in this segment, and talking about your personal journey, which I appreciate, and your vulnerability, that you want to leave here, or any nuggets of wisdom that you feel like people right now, especially in the holidays, that feel overwhelmed by the responsibilities of life? Like, if you think to some of your holiday practices, because they can be stressful and overwhelming, what are you going to do this holiday season to make sure that you are prioritizing you first, your wellness first?
Yeah. And I would just say, getting back to the first question, that for anybody who is really struggling, I would say the biggest piece of advice would be to know that this is not forever. This is not your forever right now, what you're going through, and just giving yourself grace and giving yourself permission to have bad days. And maybe showing up today means you're at 10% of what you normally are. And when you're really going through it, sometimes that's enough. You said something earlier which really resonated, and I learned a concept through author Mel Robbins, who she's great if you're looking for reading material. She has so many great books, but one of her concepts is around brick by brick, build your house. Like when it comes to like prepping for the holidays or getting your work done, whatever it is, your relationships, don't try to boil the ocean and do everything in one day or get overwhelmed by it. Think about what is one small thing I can do today to get better. And say you're in a really dark time. Well, maybe that is taking a shower. Honestly, like having those little small wins and being okay with not being okay is a big takeaway that I would like to leave your audience with for sure. And just giving yourself grace to get better. Abraham Hicks has this saying, which I love in a lot of her teachings, where she says, you can't take a train that's going 100 miles an hour in one direction and get it to go 100 miles an hour in the other direction overnight. Like if you're unlearning these behaviors, unlearning these things, and like trying to be better and like moving to a place of wellness where you haven't been prioritizing your wellness like I was, you have to give yourself a break and don't expect to change overnight. And success is not linear. Progress is not always linear. So just being kind to yourself is so, so important. And we'll talk about this in the next episode, more tactical, but talking to yourself in a positive way is really helpful. But when it comes to prioritizing and the holidays, I'm a big list maker. Don't give me a reason to make a list because I'll take it. I love it. But just getting organized, understanding what you need to get done, being realistic with what you're willing to take on. Like, do you really want to host your entire family and do all of the meals? Could one of these maybe be a potluck or, just kind of like figuring, not overcommitting yourself, I would say. Because so many times holidays are supposed to be this time of rest and recharge, and then you burn yourself into the ground. And by the end of the holidays, you need holidays to recoup from the stress of the holidays.
Yes, absolutely. Overcommitting, taking on too much. So this goes back to self-awareness and getting honest.
Yeah.
Really getting honest. Do I have the time to take this on? If I contribute this and then I'm feeling guilty, like I should contribute this, this, and this, and then it's stressful. I just did that with Thanksgiving. I'm bringing a couple of things, and then I realized I was signing myself up for more things, and it didn't even make any sense. It was an old behavior of feeling guilty that I wasn't bringing enough. And for goodness sakes, I'm like, I already bring enough to the table. I'm laughing as I say that kind of jokingly, but that's the way I'm hardwired. If I'm going to bring one thing, why don't I bring 2 or 3 more things so I can show that I'm contributing? And that comes from a lack perspective. I know exactly today at face value that comes from I'm not enough is exactly what that's saying. So I just am bringing the one thing, and it's going to be fabulous. It's Brussels sprouts, by the way.
Nice.
I make these really great Brussels sprouts, and everybody is bringing 1 or 2 things, and there's tons of us. But I'm like, I don't have to bring Brussels sprouts and an amazing salad. The Brussels sprouts are probably going to be enough because we're going to have an abundance of food.
Yeah.
So what you're sharing is being self-aware and getting honest. So you are mindful not to overcommit. You commit what you can so you can enjoy yourself, because being able to relax, to be present, to enjoy yourself without overextending, because there's enough on our plates that creates an overextension, and then that contributes to stress, anxiety, and the burnout, all the things that
like,
tend
why
to...
am I doing this? Am I doing it because I feel guilty, or am I doing it because it makes me feel happy? And yes, it's a lot of work, but it creates an amazing experience for my family and the people that I love. Like if that brings you joy and being so scheduled, it's not about make sure you don't do anything over the holidays. If you like hosting, if that's what makes you feel good, do it. But I'm saying don't do things out of guilt or because you feel like, oh, I have to. And like not, sometimes not always totally in our control. We have different family members and things, but generally speaking, just kind of setting those boundaries and then figuring out like, what does a successful holiday look like to me? Like, how do I want to feel after the holidays? Do I want to be rested? Okay, well then you need to do things that make you
create rest. Yeah. Help with rest.
Very
Absolutely.
simplified, but it's sort of like assessing what you want out of the holiday season. And then I'm a big planner. So then like making a plan to get out of the holidays what you would like, instead of just saying yes all across the board.
Yes.
And then like what happened?
I think that's a great takeaway for everyone too, is what is your plan for this holiday season? And if you listen to this after Thanksgiving, it's okay. We have a whole other season that we walk into, but whether it's Thanksgiving or any holiday season or any season of life, what is my plan? What do I want to earn from this? What do I want to experience? Get clear on 2 or 3, one intention, and see how you can contribute to that or create that or affect that in your experience. I think that is a brilliant takeaway, and I'm going to do that for Thanksgiving. Like I actually, like after we get off of our call, I'm going to sit and reflect on what I want to experience over Thanksgiving and how I can mindfully take practical action around that within what is in my control, what can I control, my attitudes, actions, and behaviors. So I think that's a wonderful nugget. Sara, thank you for the wisdom, the insight that you have shared, and really helping outline your wellness journey so well. I know it will resonate with so many people, but I hope you all have gotten some healthy nuggets and takeaways to prompt your own personal wellness journey and impact you in the months ahead, and especially through the holiday season, because I think it is a really fruitful time to pay attention to where we may be out of alignment or out of whack. So thank you, Sara, and I'm looking forward to our second discussion. So please join us where we'll talk more about professional wellness and workplace wellness and how to really affect some change in your career and in your work environment to experience greater happiness, health, and well-being. Thank you for joining me on Soul Sessions, and please be sure to reach out with any feedback or questions. We'd be happy to answer them. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
No one likes to talk about money. Am I saving enough? Can I buy a house? Am I paying too much in taxes? Will I be able to retire? What if you could unlock insights about your finances in less than 5 minutes with a clear picture of where you stand today and where your money can work harder? Now you can. Visit Facet.com to take the free quiz and get your financial wellness score today. That's FACET.com. This ad is sponsored by Facet. Facet Wealth Incorporated is an SEC registered investment advisor. This is not an offer to buy or sell securities, nor is it investment, legal, or tax advice.
What happens when the right people connect? At MITRE, breakthrough technology advances, people fulfill their passions, diversity fuels innovation, and our way of life thrives. From health to transportation and global security, cyber and AI, to space and back again. There's no higher calling than making the world a safer place. Let's connect at mitre.org/careers. That's MITRE.org/careers.
AC Hotels by Marriott is a European-inspired hotel brand where every detail has been refined, crafted, and considered to ensure a seamless stay. Wake up to the European-inspired breakfast with hand-shaved prosciutto, freshly baked croissants, and made-to-order hot items. Unwind in the AC lounge with their custom gin tonic, served in a scientifically engineered glass. Get a restful night's sleep with a relaxing lavender turn-down ritual. Visit ac-hotels.com and learn more about the perfectly precise hotel. AC Hotels is part of the Marriott Bonvoy portfolio of hotels.